Hello YouTube, Born to be Wild, NE here. And as always, NE stands for Nebraska. Go Big Red U Huskers. Hey, I'm going to try a run through of Old School Tactical Volume 2, Scenario 1, entitled The Lost Boys. The storyline reads, in the battle for St. Lo, some troops from the 29th Infantry Division become isolated. The Lost Battalion was surrounded by the enemy, low on ammo, and struggled to survive. The Germans pushed in on all sides to eliminate the pocket of American GIs. It's a 5-turn scenario. There are 3 control hexes that are marked with the 3 control hex chits. They start in American control. Americans set up first, and they have to set up between these 2 rows, not on them, but between them. At the end of the game, the control of these 3 hexes are scored 2 points for each one that the German controls, 3 points for each one that the American controls. So then you'll take those victory points plus casualty points inflicted or incurred during the game and determine the victor. The Germans' forces are made up of 4 rifle squads with a lieutenant and a light machine gun that can enter on the first turn of the game on any eastboard edge. And on the westboard edge, there are 4 rifle squads, a light machine gun, and a sergeant. On turn 4, which is the second turn of the game, a sergeant and a pioneer squad with a grenade bundle can enter on either the north edge or the south edge. Now, this scenario, the Americans have a hidden sniper and a little technique that I've developed to give that some uncertainty, both for the Americans and for the Germans or the opposition, is I use these green markers and I put them in set locations. Half of them have a yes on them and half of them are blank. So when the American wants to sniper fire from any of those locations, they simply turn it over. If it says yes, the sniper's placed there, takes his shot, the rest of the chits come off, and the sniper's set for the game and known to both players at that point. If it says no, I temporarily mark all those locations with yellow chips and scramble those 6 back up and replace them. So even if a location said no originally, it might say yes now. Maybe the sniper didn't have a good shot, or maybe he wasn't quite ready. Who knows? Anyway, it just introduces some uncertainty. You can mix the percentage of yeses to nos in any way you want to. You can put these in any legal spot at initial setup. Anyway, that's a technique I've developed. I kind of like it, but others of you may have better ideas. The American sets up first, as I've already mentioned. The impulse points, ever important impulse points. The Germans get 2d6. The Americans get 1d6 plus 3. Gut check is also important. The gut check for the Germans is 7. And since the morale is a little bit lower for the Americans, their gut check is 8, which is a bigger challenge. The Americans, I'm setting up a sergeant, a half reduced rifle squad, and a manned medium machine gun up in this wooden building. There's a stone building here, but they aren't allowed to set up in that hex row. Oh no, excuse me, they are. I've just chosen back here to get field of fire down this way. I've placed a full rifle squad with a bar kind of tucked into the bocage here. Over in this stone building, I've placed a rifle with a bar and a reduced squad. And then guarding this area, I have a lieutenant with a full rifle squad and a rifle with a bar. This terrain is interesting. You've got a road, but it's mostly flanked by bocage. So there's a little bit of blind spot potential here with this bocage. I've got a potential sniper coming down here, and I got a potential sniper coming down here. I got a potential sniper that can, you know, maybe get a shot on this lieutenant when they come in over on this side. I think that's it, and I think we'll get started. Okay, we'll get started with turn 5. I do want to mention that I will use white dice for Americans and black dice for Germans. And if I make a mistake and use the wrong color dice for the wrong force, I will re-roll with the correct color of dice. That's a rule that I use. American dice are loaded. No, that's not true. But anyway, let's get started and see what happens. We'll roll for impulse points for the Germans. 2d6, they get 7 impulse points. And we will roll 1 die for the Americans. They get 5 plus 3, they get 8. Okay, here comes the initiative roll. And the Germans get the initiative in the first turn of the game, which is turn 5. The Germans will send in a squad with a bar. They'll come in 1, 2, 3. I haven't played the game for a while, so I'm going to be a little bit rusty. That's an impulse point. The Americans could use the, can they see? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Can they see that? X, and no, they can't. Blocked line of sight. Okay. So that was an impulse point. The Americans are going to don't have a leader here, so we can only fire one of those guys. So it'd be a 5 to 6. And they will take the shot. The rifle and the bar will shoot at 5 to 6. -1. That's an impulse point. And a fired marker for one of the squads there. And they get a 9, which is good. On the -1, that's a casualty already. So they whittled the Germans down a little bit. That was effective. Germans have a casualty point. Germans don't like that too much. Not a good start. Germans are going to pass. When you have fewer impulse points than your opposition, you can pass and make the opposition go. When you have more impulse points than the opposition, you've got to spend an impulse point. Now you could do nothing, but it still spends an impulse point. So the Americans have to do something here. And they're going to try again. They're going to fire a second time with that same 5 to 6. So it's on the -1 column. And they get an 8, which is a broken check. So the Germans have a gut check of 7, and they pass it just fine. So that was an impulse point. That squad is used. This other squad still exists. Now the Germans cannot pass any further. So they are going to bring in a leader and a squad. Well, it exposes them to potential sniper fire. They will just bring in a squad. 1, 2. And these guys will see if they can see them. They've got 5. And they can see them. So they're going to take a shot. Oh, wait a minute. They went there, yeah. 5 to 4, so it's +1. Americans will spend an impulse point, try another shot. -3, so that's a whiff. So those folks have fired once. These guys moved. The Germans will bring on their leader and 2 squads, and we'll go 1, 2. So that's 2 impulse points. Now they came through this orchard hex, so this back here, this is, if it's a sniper, it's going to take a shot at the leader. So it is not. So this is where I do my little dealy bobber. Takes a little bit of time, but I still like having both sides a little uncertain about. So I mix them up. I don't know which ones are where, and I just replace them. And as soon as a sniper is revealed, then we don't have to go through that anymore. But anyway. Okay, so he makes it safely to that hex. That was impulse. No, it was not an impulse point. There was no opportunity fire. So now it's for the Americans to fire. And they're going to shoot again at this guy, 5 to 4, which will be 1 impulse point, and which will use those folks up. So 5 to 4, +1 column. And they get a 4, which is a miss. So these guys, now, that's probably a big mistake. These guys will fire, wait, can they fire there? I think that's why they moved there, so they could not be seen because of bocage, but I am wrong. I should have. Okay. Tactical error on my part. These guys will fire here at the squad. They've got firepower of 8 with a leader, and the leader offsets the moving fire. So it's going to be 8 to 6. They're behind Bokash. So it's +2 and no die roll modifier. That's 2 impulse points. And they get an 11, which is an elimination, which is 2 casualty points for the Americans. And the leader has to undergo a check, and he gets a 1. I think he survives that. Leader casualty roll. Nope, 1 through 3, and the leader is destroyed. So the leader also is destroyed. Americans have lost their lieutenant already. Oh my goodness. Great start for the Germans. Great start for the Germans. All right. Americans' turn. They're kind of in bad shape. They can't pass. They'll spend an impulse point and try to get some cover. They have to get a 5 or 6 to be successful, and they fail. Germans' turn. They will pass at this point. These guys are used here. This half squad is going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Gonna give some line of fire down here. Germans will pass again. Americans will try to dig cover here. They get a 4, so they fail. Okay, Germans cannot pass, and the Americans will have 1 impulse point. So the Germans are going to send their leader, no, not their leader, a squad and a medium machine gun. Trying to get in position to put some pressure here. They will go, let's see, that would be blocked. They got to get up here to get a shot on that guy. So they're going to go 1, 2. Moved. That's their last impulse point. And the Americans will take a shot at that guy. 5. They only have 1 impulse point, so they can't group fire. 5 to 5. The orchard, if I remember right, gives a +1 to defense. Yes, so it's 5 to 5. The Americans are firing with their last impulse this turn from here to there. A 6 on the 5 to 5 table is a shaken check. Cut check for the Germans, and they pass it. So that is the end of turn 5. And we remove all the markers. And the eastern side is collapsing quickly with the loss of a full rifle squad and their lieutenant on that side. Arg. Okay, we will come back in the next video with turn 4.